Jesus is my King, my Lord, and my life. Heavenly Father, I see how you established order by punishing those who rebelled against Moses, your appointed leader. I also see how you accepted Aaron's atonement and established him in his role. Please grant me the wisdom to discern and follow the leader you have chosen. I pray in Jesus' name, amen. Today's reading is from Numbers 16 and 17. The key points are: first, Korah, Dathan, Abiram, and On formed a faction and rebelled against Moses with 250 leaders. Second, Aaron made atonement for the people, saving them. Third, only Aaron's staff budded, signifying God's choice. Victory comes to those whom God upholds. Numbers chapter 16, Korah, a descendant of Levi, along with a few others, formed a faction and rebelled against Moses with 250 leaders. They challenged Moses and Aaron, asking why they had elevated themselves as leaders. They were dissatisfied with Moses holding political leadership and Aaron holding religious authority. Korah, the ringleader, coveted Aaron's position as high priest, while Dathan and Abiram from the tribe of Reuben sought to usurp Moses' political leadership, claiming the right of the firstborn tribe. As a leader, Moses had to continually manage internal complaints and fulfill his mission. Upon hearing this, Moses fell face down and then proposed a test to Korah and his followers. He suggested they come before the Lord the next morning with their censers filled with fire. The censer, a vessel for carrying fire, was used to burn incense on the altar in the sanctuary, a task reserved solely for the priests consecrated to God. Moses believed that God would decide who was truly qualified to come before him as a priest. He reminded the sons of Korah that serving in the tabernacle was an honorable duty and questioned why they were envious of the priesthood. The Korahites had viewed their role in carrying the heavy equipment of the tabernacle as menial compared to the duties performed within the sanctuary, leading to their discontent. Moses summoned the descendants of Reuben, but they refused to come. They accused Moses of bringing them out of a land flowing with milk and honey, only to let them die in the wilderness. They complained that Moses treated them like blind men, leading them aimlessly out of Egypt, and accused him of trying to become their ruler. Moses was very angry and prayed that God would not accept their offerings, asserting his own integrity and emphasizing that he was not seeking power, but faithfully carrying out the responsibilities entrusted to him by God. Moses then instructed Korah and the Reubenites to bring their censers the next day and come before the Lord. Each man brought his censer, put fire and incense in it, and stood at the entrance of the tent of meeting, with Moses and Aaron also present. Korah had incited the entire congregation to oppose Moses and Aaron. God then instructed Moses and Aaron to separate themselves from the assembly so he could destroy them all. Moses and Aaron fell face down and pleaded, "O God, will you be angry with the entire assembly when only one man sins?" The primary instigator was Korah, with Dathan, Abiram, and On from the tribe of Reuben as active co-conspirators. With 250 prominent leaders also involved, it can be inferred that many in the congregation supported Korah's rebellion. While God intended to destroy all of Korah's followers, Moses and Aaron interceded, pleading for mercy. Moses then warned the assembly to move away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, as God was about to perform an unprecedented act of judgment. Immediately, the ground beneath them split apart, swallowing Korah, Dathan, Abiram, and their entire families alive. Then fire came out from the Lord and consumed the 250 men offering incense. Moses instructed Aaron's son Eleazar to gather the censers from the smoldering remains and hammer them into sheets to cover the altar, as they had been consecrated to the Lord. This served as a reminder that no one other than Aaron's descendants could come near to burn incense before the Lord, lest they suffer the same fate as Korah and his followers. Why were the censers of the 250 who were consumed by fire considered holy? Even before God's fire of judgment consumed them, the censers had been presented to the Lord and thus were made holy. Once something is dedicated to God, it is set apart and cannot be used for ordinary purposes. The altar covered with the hammered bronze from these censers served as a visual reminder, not only for that generation but for future ones as well, of the folly of coveting the priesthood. It also reinforced the lesson that only Aaron's descendants were authorized to serve as priests, making it a powerful and enduring memorial. The next day, the people complained and blamed Moses and Aaron, accusing them of killing the people. Why did the people challenge Moses and Aaron even after witnessing the terrifying judgment on Korah and his followers? This scene vividly demonstrates how deeply rooted and severe their disbelief was. Korah was the one who ignited this disbelief among the people. Thus, the followers of Korah, blinded by their disbelief, were unable to see God's sovereignty in appointing Moses as the leader of Israel and Aaron as the high priest. When the Israelites gathered to attack Moses and Aaron, the glory of the Lord appeared and instructed the two to flee. Aaron, hurriedly taking the censer, found that a plague had begun among the people. As Aaron interceded for the people, standing between the living and the dead, the plague ceased. Before Aaron could bring the fire from the censer, 14,700 people had died from the plague. Considering that the total population of Israel was about 2 to 2.5 million, such a scale of disaster was a national tragedy. It was not merely an epidemic, but a terrifying judgment from God's wrath. Numbers chapter 17. God instructed Moses to have the leaders of the 12 tribes bring their staffs. Each staff was to be labeled with the name of its respective tribe, including Aaron's staff. The staffs were placed in the tabernacle's Ark of the Covenant. The next day, when Moses went in, he found that Aaron's staff had sprouted, budded, blossomed, and produced almonds. When Moses brought out all the staffs, each person saw their own staff. This provided a clear sign of who was chosen. When community leaders perform such roles, the community finds peace and restores order. Aaron's sprouted staff, kept in the Ark of the Covenant, was stored along with the 10 Commandments and the jar of manna according to God's command. However, during the period of the Judges, the jar of manna and Aaron's staff were lost. By the time of Solomon, nothing but the 2 stone tablets of the 10 Commandments remained in the Ark. 1 Kings 6:8. After these events, the people suddenly feared and lamented, claiming they would perish. They realized that it was not Moses and Aaron who were the cause of the disasters, but God himself. The Israelites initially misunderstood that Moses and Aaron had caused the deaths of their kin, but later understood that it was God's work. They insisted that anyone who approached the tabernacle would die. The Israelites often make such baseless claims and sin with their mouths. As we read and reflect on this situation, we learn not to judge only by what we see, but to seek wisdom to discern God's will within what is visible.